So I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. See, there's not too many of us up here. Many of the board members are coming in via Zoom. So just to go over the attendance of who is here in heart and presence. Robert Brandes is online, and he is a full board member. Nick Martin is online. He is a full board member. Myself, Emily Aspinall, and Megan Outerkirk is filling in for Pingree as an alternate for the duration of the meeting. We will be adopting a process by which the board members, we can't just raise our hands because that doesn't show up when we're voting in the audio recording, which is what minutes are based off of. So if you would please state your name and say aye or nay when we ask for a vote. Thank you very much. Were there any corrections to the February minutes? Any comments from board members online? This is one of those.
I do have to abstain because I wasn't at the meeting in terms of accepting.
Nick, anything? Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second? I'll second them.
Second.
Megan? All of those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Tom White, Emily? Megan?
Hi, Megan Outerkirk.
Nick?
It's Robert Barandes, I abstain.
Okay. Nick, if you'll say aye and state your name.
Aye.
How we need to do
Hi,
this.
Nick Martin.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. So committee of two referred back to the full board, the placement of driveway gates at 494 Hedges Lane. We're going to visit a couple photographs from that. They are capped. They do resemble the trim of the front railing on the house. They are going to be clear cedar, but then the discussion of placement, which was decided by the full board, was not met in the survey drawings most recently received. Is there anyone here in the room to represent them? And then also, can we pull up the picture with the red stakes? Foreground. So the placement proposed on the survey is here so that the gates don't extend into the parking area of the parking circle. And is there an area with this, Patty? Just for clarity?
We have survey.
Okay, so if we zoom into the survey, right where the front of the property is and the driveway comes through, you can see,
Sorry.
no, that's okay, we'll get there. And just zoom in there where the gate location is proposed, if you would. So just to clarify, we said that they would be in line with the arborvitae's. That is not what the survey indicated, so it's back before the full board for decision on position of placement. Do you have any remarks about do you understand what I'm talking about and what the discussion is about? Yes?
I'm trying to see.
Introduce yourself first.
Oh, okay. My name is Ramon, and I'm representing the owner of 494 Acres Lane and Sarapona.
Yeah.
In asking for a driveway gate.
Yes.
The first time we trying to put the gate almost all the way to the street.
Right.
One very close to the street.
Yes.
Now we're trying to put the most we can towards the house.
Right.
And that's the place where according we can open the gate to not hit the driveway.
Right.
Inside the property. I think that's the best way. We also changed the color. The color is should be was blue dark. Now it's going to be clear here.
Correct. All right, but the discussion is that it was supposed to be in line with the plantings, and your survey is not indicating that. So are there any comments on the board regarding this suggested relocation, which is approximately, we're okay as far as I know. For the relocation of the gates to be located at approximately 25 feet off the arborvitae, I would guess. Any comments from,
What's the distance from the street? Because I didn't hear this initially.
If you zoom out a little bit, you can see the distance there.
it is about 280 some feet from the street.
That
Thank you.
flag is 312, so 306.
Well, the thing is, the first corner of the property, if we see on the left-hand side, is 306.
Okay,
I need some room to open the gate
right.
in order to don't have the,
I understand that.
and that's why we take 11 foot.
11 feet
11
back
feet
in
back
from the
into-
plantings.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's correct. That's
Okay.
the space we need to open.
All right. Any comments from the board?
I understand the issue. We may want to explain to the applicant that this just took it out of the purview of the committee of two. And that's why it had to go back.
Sorry, we lost you, Robert. Could you say that again?
I was just saying, we may want to make it clear to the applicant, the reason it had to go back to the board, it wasn't what was submitted to the committee of two. It's not that we have objected to it at this moment. We're considering.
Right, but I'm trying to get the board to agree to the new location, which is not in line with the plantings.
I think that the explanation that has been given by the applicant seems to be appropriate in terms of the context of this gate.
So you would be willing to agree in the new location?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Nick,
Yes, I agree. I concur.
Megan?
Yeah, I mean, I think aesthetically, I'd prefer it line up, at the entry to the property where it kind of comes to a T, but I think as long as it's not closer to the street, I'm happy with it here.
So
So I approve it, it's fine.
So right now, is there a motion to approve the application with the gates located in a new position off the planting line?
I so move.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Megan?
Aye.
Seth, aye.
Very good. All right. Just to be clear to those in the room, the person to my left is an alternate. He is not sitting in on the meeting voting at this time, but he will be coming in as we process through the agenda. Is that clear to you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that is done. We've got permit. We're revisiting 519 Rich Lane. We are not revisiting, I'm sorry. This was put back. It was almost a committee of two.
Let us
Yep.
get this signed off.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I have written the names of Megan, Nick, and Robert on the application list. So on this particular application before us now with the solar There are 3 panels proposed on the roof. Is someone here to present this to the board? Do we have someone presenting it to the solar? from the solar
Element,
company?
yeah, the gentleman's raising his hand.
Okay, great, okay, very good. Would you like to go through this with us?
And introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Fred Azar. I'm with Element Energy. I have with me Mike Lawton, our Chief Operating Officer and Chief Engineer. How are you?
Hi.
So can you walk us through the position of the solar panels? We did request a sample. Did that come?
No.
It did not, for reflectivity? Okay,
Yeah, unfortunately, the solar panel is almost 4 foot by 7 foot, so it's difficult to carry in a car or have delivered there.
I see.
I can tell you that I did do a quick study, and I have documents here. If I can share my screen, is that permissible?
Sure.
Okay, so this is the panel that we're going to be using. It's called the Q-Peak Duo Black. It's a 400-watt panel, and this panel has. Bring it up. Sorry. On the front cover, it has thermally pre-stressed glass with anti-reflection technology. The anti-reflection technology is really needed, not just for the benefit of reflecting to the neighbors, but it also it helps the solar panel absorb the sun's rays. So just a quick brief notice here about anti-reflection coatings. This coating takes in effect, it brings the result is a net zero reflection with this coating. It's a safety glass, pre-stressed safety glass, and then it has this very thin coating over it that not only handles the PV, it won't degrade it, but it also causes the reflection to be dropped to zero. And this is typically common on most tier 1 company panels, and this is what this is.
All right, thank you.
The design of the solar is now shown here. And it will be, this is Bridge Lane out here. So the solar will be situated on the rear sections, and so to be on the east facing and south facing roof areas. It will not be on the front, and it will not be noticeable from the street.
Yes, I visited the site and took some pictures myself.
Okay.
The fact that we're not reflecting any energy away from the panel doesn't really illuminate very much to the concern of reflected shine off of the panel, which is what I think we were more concerned about. Since you do have plantings across the back, but there is a neighbor who has a minimal amount of windows heading your direction.
Talking about these down here.
Yeah, the house to the lower left.
Okay.
It has some windows on it. It might be picking up some sense of that.
This area here.
Yeah,
Yeah, the angle and the direction which the panels are facing should, if any reflection were to occur, would not be directed in that direction of that home. And again, yeah, that anti-reflection coating really does reduce the amount of reflection to a minimum. Again, twofold, to reduce reflection out and for the benefit of the production of the solar panel as well.
okay. Any comments from the board? Any questions?
I'm a little confused about the reflectivity. He's saying there is essentially no reflection. Is that what I understand you're saying?
That is correct. That is what that's what the science behind it is. That it's similar to a flat wall paint. It's very dull. It's not shiny. Other than the fact it looks new on first installation, but it definitely will dull down.
And just a quick question, the two panels there on the far left on that gable, is it possible to put those, what is that, 8 panels somehow to the, I'll just draw on the screen quickly.
These,
Yeah, is it possible to put those panels, say here? So that it's more combined into the interior of the building?
well, that's a different roof area. I can
Mhm.
show you here. See how that shows us a different roof area, different roof pitch.
But could you do the lower panels there and fit them in there?
So I think there's 2 at the bottom. I believe.
He's talking about these.
Just to try to consolidate, in other words, could you continue this line? And add, I don't know how many that is.
This is this is a different roof.
So the roof surface, it changes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it changes elevation essentially.
Uh-huh.
And in that design, it almost appears as though there's like a balcony or opening there, doesn't it?
I see.
Yeah, there's definitely something here.
Yeah, it was something that was obstructed in that spot, which is why we didn't put them there to start. Primarily, we always will maximize any south-facing roofs first.
Hmm.
So we would have, if we could have put them there, we definitely would have.
The other thing that happens here is I'm sure you all are familiar with the fact that East Hampton and Southampton towns require the HERS rating. They require a minimum amount of solar, and this was done this is actually the minimum number of solar required to meet the HERS rating
Yeah.
for this project, and it has to have southern exposure first and then east-west exposure second and third. Unfortunately, this roof doesn't have any flat areas. A lot of construction out there now has flat top roofs areas for solar, and we're seeing a lot of that now.
I'm looking at my pictures from a couple days ago, and it does not appear that that roof angle is different in my photograph.
You're not seeing this different? I don't have the
I
photo.
see the step down, yes, from the peak on the left, but the rest of the roof is completely on the same angle.
Right. Okay, well, the code does require us to be 18 inches from, as you can see with these yellow hash marks,
Yeah,
we have to be under those areas, and it just wouldn't give us enough. There's not enough room over here for those 8 panels.
What about putting them on the west facing roof that's to the right?
This area here,
Yes. It would still be, interior and less facing south toward the neighbor.
well, we'd still have, so if we changed it from south to west, we're probably gonna have to double the number of panels, which causes an increase in cost, as you can imagine, in order to get the same production.
Yeah, that would have to be verified by what's required for the production from the HERS rating certificate.
Right. So in other words, the southern exposure roofs, let me turn this on to see if we can help. Notice the coloring here. The brighter the colored roof, the more production you're going to get.
Hmm.
So the HERS rater wants us to go with the most efficient locations first. As you can see, that's kind of what we ended up doing. And then this would be 1,080 versus this area here is 1,480. So we would probably need to do almost double the number of panels.
And then just another quick question, if you could stay zoomed in there for a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Nick Martin speaking here. Would it be possible in terms of keeping the same, if you could just stay still for a sec.
Sure.
To do, you could see my red line there.
Yes.
Would it be possible to do a bit of a parapet or a gutter detail and then possibly move these panels up a bit so that you're not losing performance, so that from the ground, you wouldn't see I don't know what the distance is between the top of the panel and the top of the roof. Are you able to actually see into the substructure of the panel?
If you can see, notice we're right on this hashed line.
Mm-hmm.
This hashed line is the maximum height we can go. The code requires 18 inches from the ridge for.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And then if you could explain the detail from, say, the top of the roof to the top of the panel, what is that distance, and do you see underneath the panel from the ground view?
yeah, that's a good question. So again, so you're, just so I'm clear, you're referring to from the ridge to the top of the panel?
Yeah, so if I'm just gonna do a quick drawing here, let's just say that you're a human down here and the house is here and the roof is at that point and you have a panel above the roof.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, are you able to see, what this looks like, whether it's a panel or underneath the panel?
Got it.
Are you seeing that construction?
Yep, so understand what your question is now. The panels, the entire array is required to be 6 inches or less, right? As far as the height off of the roof surface. They are flush mounted and parallel to the roof. Our total height of the top of the panels are typically around 4 inches or less. And the space along the bottom edge that you're describing, where that you would essentially, if you're looking on from the ground up at it, is covered using a black anodized aluminum skirt that is like a front leading edge fairing
I see.
that is the same color as the frame of the panels. So it blocks all view of seeing what's the substructure underneath.
Yeah, that would be great to see, but that would address what I'm speaking of.
Yeah, that's our standard installation. We do that with all of our installations.
If you could show a photograph of that or detail, that would be wonderful.
I'll tell you where to go in a second.
Yeah.
Answer any other questions.
Yeah, and while I'm pulling that up, you have any other questions?
No, that would do it for me.
Okay, let me try to find that. Say where am I? Should have, like, how about Kinsey?
Yeah, that's good. They're all the same.
So what would it be?
And then just type in final after that.
Final photos?
Yep. So zoom in on that edge. You see the skirt there, that's that front, almost like a fairing, like we call it a skirt. It is an anodized black aluminum part essentially that on that leading edge, that lower edge of the array, and all of the parts of the array to block that and makes it a nice clean finished look.
And is that 4 inches roughly?
That is roughly, approximately, that's about to the top of the panels, it's about a 4-inch rise from the surface of the roof.
And what is the material in this application for the proposed roof?
It's, their roof is cedar shake.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on this photo?
Megan, Robert?
No, one thought is for all of our sake, as these applications continue to come before us, if we can impose on applicants, just set forth this is not a constraint on our approval or disapproval, but the information that they've given based on height, restrictions, 15 inches, et cetera, would be valuable for us to have so we can compare other applicants. And if they could just do that on a single sheet of paper for us, it would be much appreciated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Any comments, Megan?
No,
Very good. At this point, do you want to await any other information, or does someone want to make a motion on this?
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Emily will offer a second. That was Robert with the motion. We need to go back so I can see them. I need to see the board on the screen if it's possible.
I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye. Robert Barandas.
Nick, Emily,
Martin,
I, Megan Outerkirk.
and I will also vote in approval. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
you,
it.
board members.
Have a great day.
And I appreciate the offer to send us that information. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. A pleasure. Enjoy your day.
You too.
Thank you, Leslie. Let me just pass out. Thank you.
All set?
I am, thank you.
So we're next looking at a revisit on some new particulars with 135 Crestview.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Greg Keaton from New York Studio. Thank you for your time in reviewing this. I'm accompanied by a few people. Mr. David Spector, who is our owner's representative. I'd like to bring him up here, just have a word.
Your name, please?
Sure. My name is David Spector.
Thank you.
If you could, I'd like to go over what your changes are from what you proposed and kind of try and keep it brief because I'm losing a couple members early in the meeting. All right, thank you.
If I could make an introductory statement, I'm the owner's rep for the project. That's with me today, Sean Bennett,
I'm going to need the speaker to speak more loudly and clearly. I'm not getting any of it.
Stella Lamont Rouhani, Viola Rouhani's here with me, and obviously Greg Tejan, who's our architect of record. Viola is the original architect for the project.
We really need to have you speak up, okay? For the audio recording and the minutes.
Viola was the original architect for the project,
Yes.
and she is working with Greg now as a design consultant for the current project. And we also have on the Zoom line George Sexton, who is our lighting designer. And we'll be able to answer any of your questions about the lighting of the house at night on the property. I asked these folks to come and be prepared to answer any of your questions today. As you probably noted, we've made two very important modifications to the design. The first, in response to requests by the owners of the neighboring properties and members of the homeowners association was to eliminate the gable roof on the new addition. This lowers the height of the addition by 10 feet, reducing its.
I don't mean to interrupt, but the board, do we have any written material on this that we can see as he's talking?
Anyway.
Yes,
Written material.
Yeah,
Yes, you do.
huge
You
package
have-
on the 9th of March, John Bennett, March 9th. A huge
Is
package.
any of it available electronically so we can put it up on the board?
Why don't we have Greg?
yeah, Greg will take you through this whole thing. I am just gonna touch on it.
Really
Very
like to hear that.
And I want to emphasize that this change to the flat roof was requested by the neighbors and has been approved by the home.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
This corresponds to that.
Yes, we have that, yeah.
The second modification is fundamental rethinking and a new approach to the fenestration and the glazing area on both the barn and the addition. At the last meeting, you all expressed your concerns about the amount of glazing in the scheme and its visibility from neighboring properties and the beach, which obviously is a public area. We took these comments to heart, and our new scheme has reduced the glazing area on the east facade by 137 square feet. And coincidentally, on the south facade by the same amount, 137 square feet. Relative to the existing house, the east has been reduced by 77 square feet, and the south we have increased by about 200 square feet. I think that this new proposed design, which was the client and design team are very excited about and enthusiastically, shows that we listened and responded to your comments at the last meeting. I also want to note that the illumination study prepared by George Sexton's office, which was part of our initial submission, shows 0 foot candles at the property lines. Given the reduction in glazing in the current design, those values would be decreased. As I mentioned, George is available on Zoom for any questions. And finally, I want to touch on context, another concern raised at the last meeting. I believe a board member used the terminology overall community standard. We have brought with us some images, which Greg will share, that illustrate how this design, with the reduced glazing and the new setback from the dune line, the new addition is 15 feet further back from the dune line than the existing, has substantially less impact on the beach than virtually every house in this area. And I'll turn it over to Greg to get into the details.
If I may, it's John Bennett. I think what the board is looking for, certainly the chairman's being very direct about it. Let's do it before and after in the last, and so they can see the changes because they're significant. I think that's the best focus, no?
Yes. That would be
Well,
most
that's what
helpful.
our presentation focused on, showing you the.
We're gonna have. Trying to start with that east elevation.
Let me.
Basically a different context of night glow and what's directly visible to the public from the beach. And so that understanding and your comprehension that it turns into this little glowing feature along the coastline on a foggy night is still something that we're concerned about. Okay.
So, again,
Welcome, everyone.
I just
Before
want
I
to
review the changes, I
sorry.
apologize for that. Is that better? No, I have you on mute. Oops, sorry. Mute button, sorry. There it is.
Thank you. I apologize for the delay. Computers are just. And I'll just bring up what we're talking about here and the major changes that were requested. So if we look at one of the areas that was discussed in the original design that was presented, again, David clearly noted out that we had a gabled roof. There was glazing along the upper side, the lower side, and we had the bottom. We took to heart and we really looked at the design to see how we could better the area. And so what we've done is we've reduced the glazing significantly on the western side by adding on solid panels in this area, as well as down below. We've reduced the glazing by 1/3 in that space. We've then also reduced the amount of glazing on the south side directly by bringing the edge of the barn over. The benefit to that as well is the visibility from the beach allows that to be reduced because you're not seeing the upper level below. And then on the east side, which is a bigger concern, which had the existing glazed wall system, we originally proposed another glazed wall system, but as everyone pointed out, it was a glowing feature. So what we've done is we have added slats to the upper portion of the glazed system that are at 50% coverage, and therefore it takes the area of glow and the concern off again the top of the structure, which is always a major consideration and concern about the board. If we then actually jump to beach images, we have two existing images. There we go. So one of the things that we can kind of say here is the existing house shown in yellow is now much further back than all the other houses. And by doing so, that has allowed us to go to an image that from the beach side, so again, from the beach side, we've been able to reduce that area significantly from the view that we're currently doing. So from the beach side now, because the roof rolls over, we are no longer seeing the amount of light and off light that would actually be occurred, because when you're down on the beach, you are significantly lower, about 20 feet lower. And again, by rounding that down has significantly reduced that. But the bigger change that we've all kind of were questioning is on the east side. So here on the rendered images, you can see, and I'll zoom in on this, you can see that the new structure, while sitting in the intent is to make this volume kind of disappear and let the original volume that's always been there kind of feel like it's still there. But by not having the glazing along the top, and then as well as not having the glazing along the east side, it is a very significant difference in the way the building is going to be perceived. If you look down here, if we look down here at the east elevation now, where again, the glazing was a major concern, you can see that we've dramatically adjusted the structure. The off-light, because of the glaze, all the planting and evergreen hedges that are between the two properties are there. We've also reviewed this with both of the neighbors. They are extremely happy with what is being done and would like to see this being executed. From the road, which is always a major concern, because we have the garage located in front, we do not have a glass door on the garage, so there's no reflectivity from the front, and it's just a simple entry path. An entry path, again, it blocks the mass of the structure. We don't have gates, and it's a private association coming in. But I think the bigger concern was, again, is what is the lighting effect from the neighbors and what they feel, as well as what we would see coming down the beach. And so that actually is that was one of the bigger comments that we had to address to the board. One of the other things that was there. So with that, I would like to ask if there's any additional comments that are raised due to the glazing comments that are being presented here.
Just before you just do that, I think, Charlie, please come up to. Yeah, sure. I just want to make sure that there's a little bit more emphasis. I just trying to respond to, particularly with the chairman. If you look at A205, that's a significant difference from the beach side, correct? into a fine complete drive. And you have a significant reduction in the massing by elimination of the gable roof, and you also have a significant amount, just quick and direct way to say it is just less glass, and less, significantly less, invasion of areas outside, and presentation from areas outside the property by glass. So we worked hard to do that, and the other very important thing to note is, the homeowners association is in full support of this, prefers the flat roof. And in terms of the effect, one of the things you look at is impact on the neighborhood, and being sympathetic to the neighborhood. I think that speaks volumes.
Just to clarify one thing in my mind, the chimney color is supposed to be M8, and it's not sheer black, which is what it looks like in the rendering.
It's actually, it's a dark brick, and that's what it is. It is a black.
It's indicated that it's M8, which is zinc.
Okay, and if that was labeled that way, and I don't see it that way, again, that was an apology. That would be actually a dark colored brick
So
material.
is it similar to what is existing in the rendering?
What's existing in the rendering, yes, it's being shown in the rendering, yes.
Right, but I'm saying there's a picture that says existing and it appears to be a brick colored chimney.
Correct, that is true.
And that will remain the same color?
It will be a little bit darker than what's shown. Right now, it's a darker red brick. We're gonna go to a darker gray brick.
Okay, thank you.
Very well.
It's kind of an imposing.
Yeah, it's an odd shaped fireplace and chimney, so we are squaring it off.
Thank you. Any comments from the Zoom members of the board?
Yeah, I have a quick question, Nick Martin, requesting. Would you be able to tell us, first of all, I appreciate all the effort. It seems like quite a bit of reduction. Could you post that image again on the screen? I think that disappeared for some reason. And the question is the proposed area on the second floor. I see you've removed the gable, which helps quite a bit with the massing. But my question would be what the size of that opening is that I'm highlighting in red, which is the second floor. It looks like a large slider.
Yes, it's around 16 feet or so, plus or minus.
16 feet wide.
Excuse me?
16 feet wide, and how tall is that?
It's gonna be 9'1".
Mhm,
We're 9'1" on both stories that are in the addition.
I see.
And then the existing opening in here actually exists right now. It is a roll-up garage door that is clear. So we're just replacing with a slider. So there is relatively no change in that area. And then this area is now being accommodated. There is an existing window. If we zoom out, there's an existing window in this space that we're replacing. So our new datum line is going to come down over here. So it'll be very similar. Our new glaze line is going to come into this corner. But at the same time, the amount of window space is going to be captured by our screening space that is offsetting the material. So we have basically the same window being placed vertically, and then we have the screen. The screening does add another little 50% of the glazing, but in the overall context of things, we have matured the design.
You show the before and after, the upper right.
Yep.
So that you can see the contrast, the upper right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong way.
The upper right, what was previously proposed, but keep the proposed in the suite as well. It's a significant change.
So, yeah, so obviously that John bringing up a very good point. The requested change was actually the biggest thing. So from the south side, there was a lot of concern about the change. So we took that into very consideration. And you can see substantial reduction in the mass of the building. It allows the existing building to really be what it is, as well as then we've addressed the glazing, existing glazing conditions on both the east side as well as the west side, as well as the south side.
I appreciate that. And would the client be open to maybe an anti-reflective railing glass that's on the second floor there?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why we can't. However, that glazing offset is going to be no different than what's there. in the building behind it. I don't see that, especially with the distance we're now from being pushed back 135 feet. We are definitely reducing our area. The glazing of that handrail, I don't know if that's a major concern, but we would definitely look to entertain it if we get past this, these questions, but.
Yeah, we're looking at all the glass.
And that's the process here. We want to make sure that what we present is in context with the area, keeping the kind of real vibe that you would have walking down the beach, as well as the entrance and the views from Crestview Lane as you come in. As I said, now that the roof has been lowered, the view from the beach is significantly different, especially to some of the properties that are.
I think most importantly is that the barn glazing now is virtually not visible from the beach anymore. Taking out that top end has essentially eliminated all the glass that you can see from the beach.
Okay. Let me work within this. Nick, any other comments or questions?
Those are the only questions. Thank you.
Okay, Megan? Robert?
Major changes and appreciated.
Yeah, thank you for all the very thoughtful changes and keeping the design clean and nice and appreciating all the views from the neighbors on the street and the beach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great what you've done. I just have a couple of questions. You did mention that there was an area where the glazing had increased by 200 feet. Where is that?
No, that must have been mistaken. There was no increase in glazing, except I guess if you're referring to the southern side,
Southern side.
that was
up
where
200
it was
It was
offset.
up 200 feet
From existing,
from existing.
not from the prior store.
So I think you're referring to this southern side over here from where.
But that's primarily because there is very little glass.
I think you're referring to, sorry,
No, it's on the addition, Greg.
on the addition, sorry. This area right here, doing the calculations, the amount of glazing, the amount of handrail review in here is actually more than what we were proposing. In this case, in this house, it's a lot offset. It's in different locations. It's behind here. We have a glaze connector. What we have done is we've screened the glaze connector that is there. So we're not having any off lighting there. And the only area that maybe, like I say, there is an increase of, it notes it a bit, is in this southern corner right here. But again, there's this opening is existing,
Yeah,
which matches, and it's this area that's getting reconfigured. The window is now almost in a vertical mode.
Okay, my other question was the slatting. What is the spacing of the slatting?
The spacing is, we're using a 50% calculation. We're trying to get the spacing fairly tight down to somewhere in the 3/4 range, just because it's going to be a slatted material. But for calculation purposes, we left it at 50%. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from the Zoom board members? Comments? Okay, thank you. Anything else from you? Is there a motion to approve this as submitted with the alterations from the first proposed?
Tom, before you do that, though this is much appreciated, and I do believe the board will proceed, do we have a new set of lighting percentage calculations in the submission? Because it is something that we need and have indicated.
No, we
in order
don't.
to give the approval.
No, we don't, because there was zero transmission of light on the prior demonstrations, and now we've significantly reduced them.
We'll show you the
That
calculation.
actually doesn't make any sense if it was zero. You can't reduce them. You just reduce the size.
Here's the science.
Let me finish my question, which is just a technical one. Just be calm. Do we have fenestration size to the walls in terms of percentages? I think we need it to the file.
We do have the fenestration calculations that were done by George Sexton, who has done the calculation in the amount of light that would be seen and offset. as mentioned by the inspector, we have reached a zero candle foot at the property line. And
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? Well, I think we didn't follow what his question was.
Okay, as an application, in order for it to be complete, we need a portion of that application to show the percentage of fenestration on the sides of the building or buildings. Okay, it's not going to change your application. We just need it to finalize the application. And I'm reminding our chairperson that we have to look for those, even though we may make a move, there may be a movement.
So you're not talking about, you're not talking about the photometric plan then?
I believe they are in the packet, Robert. It should be
The
on
only thing
page
is-
207 and page 208.
Yes, if we
That
could
was
just all
all I
review
was
that.
asking. Is it in the package? That's all I was asking.
Yes, it is.
sorry, to clearly answer, yes, the information is in the packet. We also showed what was originally proposed and now newly proposed in all the different schemes. You can see the
Thank
linear.
you for the confirmation. That was all I was asking. It wasn't
Thank
the
you very
approval
much.
section. It just was the subject. Thank you.
And the board recognizes that it is included.
I see it for the north. Don't see a comparison for the west.
The west did not have a comparison at the time.
No, the reason there is no comparison is the west is unchanged.
Okay. All right. And is there one for the south or no?
Yes, there is.
So,
The south is the major one, actually. The south and the east were the bigger concerns. That's where we had our.
right.
The south is on
205.
205.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And then we have east and west. Yes, all right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
It's tough to show all directions, but
So was there a motion at this point?
So moved.
Emily has a motion on the table. Any second?
Megan,
Second.
Adderberg, second.
All right, all those in favor?
Robert Barron, that's aye.
Megan, Outerkirk, aye.
All right, let's.
thank you. Thank you everyone for your
Thanks very
time.
much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Making that effort.
Stay well.
For the next application, just taking the step that Nick will recuse himself and will be stepping on to the next application. Yes. Yes. Board has no further comments on this. So we're just going to vote on it. Is that correct? Yeah. That's right. So regarding the application from the Gans Family Company, 230 Town Line Road, the village attorney has rendered a decision from the discussion and input from the board, and based on the three meetings that we've had on this dating back to December, and we have given the applicant the time to make full expression, and the board has no further comments, I don't believe, regarding the decision. And so the action that we take today is simply to make that decision the final filing on this part of the application process, and submit, and the clerk will submit that back out to the applicant.
Is Nick recusing himself.
Yes, I did that already. And Anthony is stepping in.
Sorry.
It's all right. So is there a motion to approve the decision as rendered by the village attorney?
So moved.
Okay. Robert, you came in right after Anthony, so you'll be the second, and all those in favor?
Robert Barron, that's I.
Megan Outerkirk, aye.
Tony Woods, aye.
Tom White, aye.
Emily, aye.
Very good. Thank you all very much.
What was the decision?
They'll be mailing it out to you, okay? But it was a denial on the proposed comment, and there's legal reasons why it's an application that we can't make a decision on, because you went ahead and built something that wasn't approved. But it's more clearly explained than that in the decision.
I'm going to send an official note to you. That's from the filing.
Very good. Thank you all very much. And we will move on in the agenda. Was that sufficient? Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Is there someone here for 416 Hedges Lane?
Yes, hi, Matthew LeBrake here from Blazing Point Architecture.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, is that right? Okay. Anthony is going to step back off the board, and Nick will be back on for until he has to leave in a little bit. So we're revisiting 416 Hedges Lane, and John or Matthew, are you taking lead on this?
Yes, sure thing. So just share screen.
Yep.
So previously, the main concern was the ratio of glass, specifically on the eastern neighbor's front. So we did actually pass through each facade in an attempt to reduce the glass throughout. So these are actually our updated calculations. So here on the north facade, we got it down to 72%. One of the largest ones is that facade that was in question. We reduced that to 26%. Previously, you could see it was up at 64%. And then also on these two facades, we have 37% now on the south and 45% on the western facade.
Okay. Do we,
The total reduction.
yeah, do you have these documents, because they are not in here?
This is all that was presented to me.
We have something stamped March 11th.
Correct.
Right, but there's no light study. Unless I'm missing it, there's some dusk pictures and daytime pictures. Not really any nighttime pictures.
They should be following just the day renders.
Okay,
You're not part of this package.
they are not part of this package. Okay. All right, so could we go back over those with the light and really we should have at least one copy of those that can be signed off by the member of the board so that we have something on record of what you're proposing.
Mhm.
These are
Perfect.
modified, correct, Matthew?
Can you say that one more time? You just broke up a little bit.
These were modified, is that correct?
Correct. So this was a reduction down to 26%, consisting of glazing here and here.
Yeah.
Previously,
Matthew, what were the percentages before the reduction?
before it was 64%.
And now it is.
Now it is 26%. So you can see there was a substantial amount of glazing previously in these areas.
This is less. Okay, if you could give those numbers for all of the facades, that would be very helpful.
Sure thing. So the north facade is at 69%. The east facade, which faces the neighbor of concern, was previously at 64%. Now it is at 26%. And then the south facade is now at 37%. And the west facade is at 45%.
And these take into consideration the new screening on particular panels, is that correct?
Correct. Though that screening occurs at the bathrooms as well.
Okay. Any comments from the board on Zoom?
Comment from Megan.
Yes.
Comment from Nick.
Robert?
No comment.
Okay. What we're gonna do is, I really would like to have one set of those in the office so that we have something to work from that's on file here. So, do you have any comments? No? Okay. So if we could get those in, we'll have the committee of two just go over them, and then I don't foresee any further work on your end. Robert, Nick, Megan, are you in agreement with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. So I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn it to committee of two for their review of the paperwork, and then they'll write off on it. If that's
Thank you very much.
I need a second and a vote.
Second.
So moved.
Very good. All those in favor? I did.
Oh, thank you. Aye.
Aye,
Aye,
Tom.
Robert.
Robert? Megan, yes? All right, Nick?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Now we're on to the next report. Yes, actually, I've got to keep on moving through things, so we can talk after the meeting then.
If you could then share because.
Okay, I have one here, so I'll
I
think I do.
I seem to have two of these.
All right, that's fine.
15 Jacobs is adjourned.
Right, we've had a request to adjourn 15 Jacobs Way. Is there a motion to adjourn that?
So moved.
So moved. Second, I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. Tom White.
Hi, Megan Outerkirk.
Robert, yes?
He's talking.
You're on mute, sir. There we go. All right, so I take it that we've had at least 3 votes on that adjournment. Has Nick signed out?
It was chairs. Who's chair? That's his chair.
Okay, that's his chair. Okay, very good. So moving on to 342.
Morning, everyone.
Oh,
Afternoon.
that was a while ago.
Thanks for being here. I'll refresh you where we were last time, you probably know, but I think the application was, you had good comments on the application, but you had some comments about glazing. The 3 areas, you probably just refer to the reference, they're probably easier to look at. It was, I'm sorry, Peter mentioned that. I'm sorry. So the three areas that you had concerns were the two glass connectors in the front of the house, the square windows on the second floor there. There was the large great room door in the rear. And the other area was the master wing, which is from the rear to the left side with the balcony. Over the porch. So I'm gonna let Craig, the architect, Craig Arm, discuss exactly how we reduced it and what we're proposing. In regards to copy. We'll keep this quick.
Everyone, Craig Ryan.
Give you one, a hard copy.
Yes, hi everyone, Craig Arnold, architect for Peter Magnoli and people.
Speak up to the recording.
Sure.
Thank you.
So as Peter mentioned, we took a look at all the areas. Oh, I'm sorry, that's okay. As Peter mentioned, we took a look at some of the areas of concern in regards to the glazing and the overall square footage of glass. So we took the areas and we reduced the windows and still maintaining the original aesthetic by some of the ones in the glass connectors by 4 inches in width and 6 inches in height. The large rear living room, we reduced 8 inches in width and 8 inches in height. Then there was some additional reductions with some removal of windows on the right and the left elevations, where previously in the master bedroom on the second floor, we had 3 windows on either side. We actually revised those to just a pair of windows on either side. So overall, we were able to reduce our calculations from on the front from 28.8 to 28%. The right went from 20.6 to 18.7. The rear went from 32.7 to 32.5, and the left from 19 maintained at 19.4. Actually, I believe I have a mistake there.
Yeah,
Because we lost the window there, the calculations, I believe were correct. So that did actually come down as well. And I can.
They aren't highly significant reductions.
Less than a percentage reduction.
For some of the overall sides, 1% to 2%, 3%. Additionally, which Peter has some samples, what we're proposing to further reduce the glass, I guess the values to use a heavier tint glass on some of these areas as well.
Yeah.
So what that does, that changes from where we were 28.8, it'll reduce to 26%. And then where we had originally 20.6, it goes to 18, the 32.7 to 29.6. So you do save 3%, 2% across across each elevation, once we factor in the reduction and then the additional.
I understand. I was really looking for something that was significant myself, but we'll hear what the other board members.
So if I could just, give you a little bit more information, you had asked for this last time.
Yes,
I want to see some
that's fine.
samples.
Yep.
So this is clear glass, and one of the things I forgot to remind you of, when we're proposing the whole house right out of the gate, the initial application was 72% translucent glass. So right out of the gate, we're giving a significant
Right, I understand all of this, but the other thing is that I'm dealing with board members who are away, so they can't physically look at this and say, oh, I understand it.
Okay,
So,
so that's 70% versus
right.
100, and I'll give you one more thing.
Okay,
These are a couple of things I'm willing to do also at the areas you were concerned with, which is the great room door and those square windows.
Mhm.
This is 38%, it's pretty expensive, 38, 39. It's a ZOE instead of a low E. It's a whole different technology and it's anti-reflective as well. It's for solar gain as well as transmissible light. So in the areas you're concerned with the great room and those two square panels in the front, I'd be willing to use these, which would cut it in half from what we proposed originally and the reduction in size.
okay.
Just I'll let you think.
Okay. The thing is that it's very difficult for me to illuminate these things to people that are on Zoom. So I may be taking pictures of these and.
I give you specs, that's easy. We have specs in the package, actually, I think.
Okay, but the samples are great, but I would have loved to have gotten them last week so that I could share them with people who weren't here in person.
It was hard to get those from Cardinal Glass with the shipping issues. We did our best, and I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. I think it's important for you to see all of these things, or at least have an opportunity to look at images of them and their impact. Asking you to have faith in something that's sitting here at the desk, which is a few miles away or longer, further, isn't really realistic. But overall, do you have any particular comments on what he has presented to us so far today, as far as the significance of reduction or the lack of significant reduction, and including some of these emission glass? I'll ask that question of those on Zoom first, and then we'll ask Emily for her insight as well, having the opportunity to look at them herself. Any comments?
I actually have some thoughts. Although the board has been very collaborative with designers, architects, builders, etc., on trying to use low emission glass so as to provide some relief, I do not know if, without a magnitude of change to the fenestration itself, that we can have people relying on low emission glass to solve an issue where we have glass walls that we're looking at. I just am uncomfortable with that, and I think that I will need some time to consider that, whether or not I look at the low emission glass relative to being the solution rather than changing the fenestration.
Totally agree with you. Thank you. And sorry, Megan, did you want to say something?
No comment.
No comment. None at all.
No.
Nick?
I would concur with that comment. I think it's critical to get the information in time for us to digest the information. I also do think the glass in this application could be reduced without reducing the quality of the project, particularly the second story, very tall. I don't know if they're double hungs or what they are, but they're just, I don't know if you could tell me the size of these. I'll just illuminate it with annotation. But the second story almost, I don't know, looks taller than a human, 6 foot tall double hung windows. I mean, I'm not sure that the design would be curtailed if those were, say, 2 feet less tall. And generally the second floor glass is obviously more important. As I just in scale, I think the glass bridge, if that was less tall, it might read as a bridge more than it does now, because it is so even with the line of the eave there, the fascia board. So if that was, say, a few feet lower, I think it might read geometrically better. And of course, that large span of glass on the first floor, again, I think it could be reduced. But I do appreciate the effort.
Thank you. We can certainly, we'll take a look at the heights of some of the windows and see what we think we can adjust.
Is it possible to get a bar that we can meet? I mean, I think we reduced the windows slightly because we don't want to lose the architectural integrity of the house. And Nick, your comment about the bridges is a good comment. that's an HVAC issue for us, potentially. That's where our HVAC is gonna be in those joists there. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I don't dislike what it is either. And it's a functional item right now. But if we could get a bar, I mean, we're cutting those large windows that you were concerned about, we're cutting light emissions in half. You know, between size and using other glass there. So I think we're achieving what you're asking for. So maybe you could help me with the bar and how we get there.
Yeah, and we'd be open to reviewing all of that. I just think it's, you know, there's some nice elements here, and I'm not sure it'd be, you know, if you reduce across the board on this elevation 15%, I'm not sure it would really reduce the quality of the architecture.
I don't disagree, Nick. What we have there is mostly doors, though. We have a couple of windows in the master, we eliminated one. So really what we're talking about is 3 windows on that right gable is all we're talking about, other than the great room doors, which I'm looking to reduce with a product.
Well, it's really up to the architect to manage it. I'm not proposing how, but certainly the doors could be, rather than sets of 3, maybe it's only 2 and there's less of them in terms of their length. But again, we'd be open to looking at anything you propose.
Again, they're double doors up there, all the doors right now. They're not triple.
The ones on the first floor.
Well, first floor is not a concern as far as I understand the board, but the second floor is a concern.
The huge window section here.
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Yeah, that was a concern when I first looked at it.
Of course.
And it's why I went out of my way to try and get that product. I'm sorry I didn't get it sooner for you.
Okay.
But we also have 14-foot hedges around the property, and if we show some aerial views, if you have those aerial views that you can show, Pat, or
But
camera
it's
shots.
still a question of what glow we get in the community at night. And you can have hedges, but light goes up,
That's
light goes
reasonable.
everywhere.
That's reasonable.
And the neighborhood the neighborhood of Sagaponic, the entire ruralism that I've been here 60 years, family's been here 300 years. You're talking about a lot of change for us.
Yeah.
And people buy here because it has the beauty. Yeah. And the foo-fooism of it, that you're still in the Hamptons, but you're still changing the neighborhood a little bit too much, but so much light emission.
I hope you can take into consideration that glass we're using.
I will.
And we're starting with a 72% transmissible light on every piece of glass. So I think,
Understood.
Without that's foot forward.
I think maybe what we should do is I'll break out the calculations showing the standard clear to then the difference of what we're proposing across the board. To
That would be
then
helpful.
the reduction, and then perhaps on the rendering, we can have the lighting almost toned down those percentages. Perhaps just to show sort of like a glow at night, something almost like a filter. I'm not sure if we can do that or not, but try and at least get you a representation of it.
Yeah, I mean, I realize that this will be less if you're using commission glass, but it's still a hell of a lot of light.
It's also showing like 20-watt bulbs in
Right.
the house.
Those are actually standard bulbs in the house. It's mostly recessed lighting, so not too much is coming out of the windows. That's a true representation. He used the actual.
Tom, as a board member who's been around only 22 years of our section, we have a commitment in terms of our community. I will have great difficulty approving this level of glass on a house if it was blacked out from the inside, because the look of this house is so contrary to our community standards. I really have an issue, and I'm stating it now. They're going to have to persuade me otherwise.
Okay. Thanks for being upfront and straightforward.
Our job is to help the architect know what has to come before us if they want an approval.
Right.
We understand their desire and it's their choice. But understand, we're going to comply with the obligations we have under our statute.
Robert, if I can reply to you, I respect it 100%. I lived on the fringe of Sagaponic for almost 20 years. I've been out here for longer. It's a difficult process to come to Sagaponic with the lighting specifically because there's no bar, right? So if first floor if you're okay with 50%, then let us know that. Second floor, if you're okay with 26%, let us know that. It's a difficult process for us. I just want you to know we're trying to make this work. We think we have a beautiful house here, and we think it is really nice for the community. And we are trying to work with you. It's just arbitrary, and I'm having difficulty with it.
Okay, we understand the position. However, we as a board respect the architects and builders that come before us in an astonishing level. We understand the change of pace, the change in our community, which is going to happen over time in terms of what people like this year, next year, and the year after. Okay, and so yes, you as an architect, as an artist, are going to have to look at this within the context of where this is going.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Any other comments?
Well, only that, Cindy, I understand your desire for a bar. However, the bar cannot be the same in every location. And that's the other problem that we have in dealing with this, obviously.
I appreciate
No,
that.
understood, especially if it's something that's just open in a field, it's very different than if it's.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Robert, second?
Megan will second.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Megan Kirk, aye.
Robert, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thank you very much. I will go back to it. Very good. 544 Hedges.
Construction. Wait, give me a minute. I gotta take notes, Missy.
And Chris Cantillo is online as well, architect. So last meeting, you guys, people have not had an opportunity to come out and take a look at the property. We have now had site visits and came out and looked at the foliage around the evergreens that are actually quite a big growth there. And what we're trying to do. We are willing to do, as I mentioned before, additional plantings if anybody would want that. We also are willing to do the different glass. Well, but we have not changed the actual glass. That we
Okay. Very good. Just to double check, Megan, you were able to do the site visit, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Very good. Emily, you saw it with Pingree, I saw it with Nick. General observations or comments?
This is Megan. I think it's a beautiful property, and I think while there is a lot of excess glass in the back barn, I think there's enough land and screening around where you would be exposed as a neighbor. So on the back side of that visual there on the screen, there's a huge amount of space and trees on the backside anyway, that is blocking that. I think, yeah, where that's all going to be glass should be screened fairly well, not necessarily by that tree, but by the large amount of space in between the homes and the privet and trees in between.
Emma, you want to
I
speak?
agree.
I was confused. This is Megan again. I had a question if that's going to be the main residence or if the house in the front is going to be the main residence.
Oh, this is the main residence, the large
Okay.
barn.
Okay.
My perspective and my thoughts on having a wide open backyard with very little plantings actually increase the nighttime illumination. And so I would not support the 3 panels. I would support something smaller or a significant amount of, I don't see how you can plant more that's going to cut down or diminish the night glow. That was my perspective.
I think if we'd sacrifice anything, it would be the top row of windows. But that's just my opinion.
Is that part of the, that top row is part of one?
It's all panel. I mean, it's a whole frame. Is that not correct? It's a window frame
You
that's.
have a transom, there's a transom.
There is a
between the
transom.
windows.
There is a transom. I thought I had asked you that. I must have mistaken.
Nick, any comments?
Nick? Is he still there?
Okay.
Is he muted?
Did, Robert?
Sorry about that, I was muted. Can we go back to the image with the facade without the tree? And of course, it is very important that the tree is there.
In the summer, yeah.
Well, it's there year round. It doesn't go away. So there you go.
I mean, to note that the client is putting an incredible amount of effort to try to retain a lot of the historic heritage of the structure by using the existing. So I think that's important to note. I'm not sure how to potentially reduce some of the second floor or what is the transoms above. I think that's really, I'm not really in concern with the lower light. It's the upper light, and it's particularly in that center area. If you look to the right, the images are three sort of typical size of the history of the house, and then all the ones to the left. Would there be a potential proposal to reduce the transom, perhaps remove perhaps the lower row of, again, I'm not going to try to give the design approach, but might there be a way to do that? Or change the kind of glass? Again, I'm appreciative of the sensitivity, but it is also quite a bit.
Well, I think Angela, who's presenting for us there, mentioned that we would consider going with a less transmissible glass Nick, to address that concern again, like previous applicants have said.
Okay.
Once again, this is a significantly large parcel of land, and as Megan had pointed out, surrounded by very mature plantings that are evergreen plantings to a great extent. We did extensive studies with the client in terms of more glass, less glass, more glass, less glass over an extraordinary amount of time, quite frankly. And I know that the client is extraordinarily convinced that this is the right answer for them. And I think they would be, I don't want to say unswayable, but pretty entrenched in their opinion that this is what they want for their property.
Okay.
So that's unfortunately, more the messenger than anything else.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
So you don't think they could be swayed to 2 portions of the transom rather than 3?
Can you go back to that image? Sorry. When you say 2 portions of the transom versus 3.
Remove 1 row of the transom, so it's 2 panes high instead of 3 panes high.
To answer that question, I would say no. I think the idea that it would be aligning with the window heads in the other portions of the house, I think is appropriate. For the design, and when you're in this space, because of the header condition at the interior, it's already, when you're in the space, feels like the window is actually set down lower when you're in the space.
The inside those, that actual middle piece as well, these are those old structural beams
Steel structural.
that are in the barn itself.
Right.
And we are mimicking, I mean, that's the same thing that's going across, and actually proposing those same structural beams to go across that area as well.
Can I see the prior, what the current status of this sidewall is?
The existing rock.
Existing.
Yes, that's in there.
I think you guys have control of the slide, so.
And you want me to take stop?
Oh, I could share my screen, sorry. Hello. Wow, this doesn't work. Try it again. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Let me just push back ahead there. Sorry. Does that help for you, Robert?
Yeah, it says to me that you have walls that are replaced by glass. That's what it says to me.
Mhm.
I understand the client's desires, but I understand the way I look at someone who's saying we're preserving a structure. Look how nice we are, and it's on big property, and we always consider those things. But you're basically replacing a wall with glass. I'll keep it in mind.
Let me ask you.
I realize the client is dead set on this, but in the interest of the community and the amount of night glow, I can't support it. Right? That's just where I'm at with it.
Let me ask you. Let me ask this question.
How wide is that? Wasn't that?
What's the dimension of the panels of the glass?
The overall width, I believe, Andrew can jump in. I think they're 12 feet.
Yeah, they're 12 feet, and I think one is slightly bigger, like 12'2" or 12'3".
I'm sorry?
Just under 12 feet.
Each section.
It's 12 feet. Yeah, between column to column is 12 feet. Between post to post is 12 feet.
Okay, so it's virtually 36 feet across, right?
That's correct.
Okay, or from side to side, is it 40? Or is that understating?
You're saying from here to here? From left to right? So this is 12, 12, and 12, and these are
all 3 panels, yeah.
right. And then the pier is about 14 or 16 inches.
Okay, so basically 40 feet. And how tall?
Less than 40 feet. Mhm. This is 8, and then this is 6, I believe, in terms of glass.
Yeah.
That's enormous. No
Yeah,
question.
it's just enormous, that's all.
Well, I think it's scaled properly for the site. I mean, once again, it is a big site. Let me ask you this question.
It is very nice to say it's scaled properly for the site,
Mhm.
because that's the size of the wall that you're replacing with glass. There is no scaling. You replace the one wall with glass.
Right. Let me ask this question. If we maintain the existing barn doors on either side, is that something that, so if there was a barn door located that piece, which is effectively there, still maintaining the glass because there's glass in the barn door so the client can see out, is that something that would be acceptable?
I certainly appreciate the creativity and would love to see a redesign along those lines.
I like the idea of a barn door. It definitely feels like Sagaponic. but I'm not sure it helps with the glass if it's gonna be glass.
No, what I'm suggesting, I'm sorry, what I'm suggesting is keeping the existing barn door, still having glass behind it so that the client can see
Oh, yeah.
out through the existing glass.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the barn door idea.
So Emily, would you be supportive of that?
I'm not sure I understand what's being.
You'd be leaving a barn door on each side and then doing the remaining in glass. So you're cutting off basically one panel of glass.
No, he's saying leave all of the glass as is, put a movable door in front of it.
Yeah, so the door would
Yeah,
be
so in other
moved to
words,
the
the door
side
goes
and the
away.
glass would be the same. That's what I'm
But
saying.
the door, you're not suggesting that the door be openable and expose all the glass, which means that
That's
we're
just no
right back
change.
where we are.
Chris, how are you envisioning?
I think the door would sit in front of this glass panel. So the client could see the back side of the
But would
existing
it be movable?
historic. Would it be movable? No, because then it would move in front of these
Right.
windows.
That's what
So
I'm
it'd be a
trying.
fixed panel in front of the glass panels that are there that we're proposing. So it's celebrating the panel.
That's
celebrating.
Celebrate, you're presenting the feature of the wide openness, but having trimming on it.
I don't know if that's clear. I think that what Chris is suggesting is that the interior view retains this entire glass wall. However, parts of the glass wall are obscured from the view inside out, and from outside in, we are looking at barn doors that are fixed, that give some access to light, but he's maintained the design element on the interior.
Correct. It would
Read that
basically
correctly.
be like a wooden door.
Slats.
It's the same idea that you folks are getting on a lot of other projects where you have those slats in front, et cetera. But in this case, it's more of a fixed panel.
And the barn doors would remain the same design as the current barn doors?
We just reuse the barn doors. They're there. They're still there on site.
Chris, you've just done great, but you do understand that if you can be this creative under this type of pressure, can you imagine what this is going to look like when you really have the time? We look forward to it.
If I was only if I was the client, Robert, then it would be a lot easier.
I sense that.
But I want to interject that we really appreciate your effort to restore this old barn in a bigger way, you know, than what we're fussing about.
Agreed with
Yeah.
Emily.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been butchered over the years and schlockily added on to over time. We're trying to strip it back. So.
It's a huge project. We were invited in, and I can see that the interior is to some extent restricting what you can do also.
Right.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
And then one last point I wanted to bring up. Last time when we presented, we didn't have the calculations on the window calculation. So we included that as part of the packet for you all to look at. So once again, you know, we're starting with 22% glazing on the exterior, on the rear, and we're going to another 12% increase in glazing. So it may look significantly more, but when you add all the numbers together, excuse me, obviously it only increases by 12%. Now we've gathered it all into one location. So obviously it has greater impact in that regard.
Get a little smaller.
That was the only thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Robert. Megan, any closing comments?
No.
Okay. I pray for you. I know it's not going to be easy. We're comfortable. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, Tom, I would like to comment on what you just said. It's so strange. When I look at the elements that they've tried to retain and the way they've looked at this and understand the constraints of having a client, I don't think that we're talking about difficulty. I think that we're talking about giving them the thoughts of a board whose desires are very clear in terms of community, while allowing them to be creative. In just a minute, he gave an idea that I don't think we thought was a possibility. So I understand the skill that we're looking at, but I think that the board would look forward to your suggestions based on this conversation.
Thank you.
Very good. We will see you next month.
So shall we present a drawing with the barn doors?
Yeah,
then
if
for
that-
the next
yeah.
meeting?
Is that feasible?
We'll present that to the client and then we'll present that. But again, I'm kind of in the same boat as the guy before that. If that is done, if we were to do that, are we meeting the requirement that you're looking for?
I would say that that's a step in the right direction, yeah.
But we
I
don't know if
can't
that's
speak
the
for
right
everybody, I
direction.
can only speak for myself.
I'm kind of saying it to everybody.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Emily was just.
Well, I
pointing out
was just
something.
pointing out that I'm surprised that it's only gone from 22% to 34%, because this huge triple glass, all glass door is an enormous beacon. I mean, I personally like it, but it's a lot of light.
Relative to the house, it's four blocks.
And, but I think
It's
it's
the divided lights that's.
important that we had all of the other, those smaller windows.
You know, I
Yeah.
see, it's a very clear contrast. Because there were a lot of small windows on that facade before.
Mhm, yeah. Okay,
And the one in the middle was existing.
right.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Which was all glass and no mullions. So that's what.
Right, yep. Okay, very good. Any other questions about it? Okay, great, very good. Motion to adjourn until next month.
Could I just propose the board for a second? I've been here for 4 months.
They try to just close out this application,
We,
not the meeting, the
Oh, okay.
application.
the meeting is still going on, yep, just a moment.
Sorry.
So, the date of the next meeting, sorry.
The next meeting will be April 5th.
25, okay, very good. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn that?
So moved.
Robert, second, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
I
Hi, Robert.
Hi, Megan.
Yeah. You should be.
Yes, he's out.
Okay, so you're on for next. Okay. For the sake of the record, Tony is going to fill in for Nick for the rest of the meeting. Very good, and we're going to, yes, you're all set. Thank you. Great, thank you very much.
thank you.
And there is somebody here for 159 trees,
Okay.
and they provided it to us. So
Yep.
Just make a note that I would like to have a moment to speak to the board before we close the meeting at the end about just something technical.
Okay, yep. Yeah. Right here.
Oh, she's down there. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Eric? Nick? Hello.
Yes, I'm here on behalf of Eric.
Okay.
Eric's currently traveling.
Very good. I
What is
did,
his name? Nick. Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. I should know.
it's on the screen.
What are you talking about?
Not an issue, and I apologize for not being in person. I'm currently on military orders.
No worries.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
Treesley. Okay, so I did take a photograph of the light emission sample that was dropped off and emailed it out to you, and this would be for the four roof light skylights proposed for 159 Trees Lane.
Okay.
The renderings were indicating, the renderings on file were indicating that these were side by side. That was going to interfere with the framing and the roof, so they were going to actually be spread apart further. And that was where we were at. And now we have a sample of the glass. Were there any other comments regarding this? They would be facing the artificial pond that Mr. Trees put in, as well as towards the ocean.
Yes, there will be 2 sets of skylights facing the driveway driving up and facing the water as well. We provided the tinted sample as opposed to the clear glass that we originally proposed. I think the only issue before accepting the permit application was the finish of the glass.
Yep. Very good. And were there any further comments from Zoom members? Hearing none. Okay. Any questions from the board? You're on. No question? Okay. Was this in satisfaction of the desires of the board? Robert, Megan, any comments?
I just wasn't present at the original meeting, so I don't want to comment, so I.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Is there a motion to approve this application for the 4 skylights at 159 Trees Lane?
I'll make it. So
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Hi, Megan.
Okay,
Hi, Robert.
very good. Thank you.
Just say that I'm thrilled that you're not tearing down the house.
She's really in love with the house. If you have any way to leave it to her, she'd just be thrilled.
Listen, we would all love that piece of property. It's quite a gem.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Very good. All right. Thank you for checking in with us, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right. So that's finished up. Do you have something to sign on that?
So we gotta sign off on these first.
Mr. Gans, you have a question, and I'm not sure exactly where the scope of your question is going.
I mean, honestly, I think at this point, the application's closed. There's a process under the village code you can follow to appeal a decision. I mean, at this point, the board shouldn't even be discussing it once it's closed and the decision's rendered.
I don't even understand what's being told to me. What do I do now? Where do I go to? Who do I appeal to? I never had a chance to present anything. I don't think it's. I don't think exactly what's written here is fair. It is a fair assessment. I think that I never had a chance to present anything and to discuss how I view it. You know, 50 years I've been here. To do this to somebody who's lived in this town, I mean, for 50 years, it's just, you know, to treat me like I'm.
It has a field process.
Is that the next step for me? There's no working with anybody? I can't go and discuss what might be changed, or there's nothing I can do? I mean, look, I take responsibility. It's you know, I should know better. There were a few things that occurred that led me to believe certain things were one way, maybe not. It was my fault. I recognize that. But write a letter like this with all the things that are out, all the allegations in it that are thrown at me. And said without a chance to defend yourself, without even being able to bring anything up. I mean, there's something said in the beginning here, and then it goes into all types of design issues. Either you can or you can't. I just don't understand. I don't understand it. I guess I don't come in front of this board anymore. Is that right? I guess
For that application that you applied to, that at this point, it's no longer for the board.
And do I file a new application with the board?
The process to appeal would be to go to the ZBA if you dispute our decision. Okay.
And if I wanted to work with you, I'm not, I don't want, I just want to live in my house.
Right, but what proceeded to be done in the house was not something that we had agreed to you doing to the house, A, and B, the way that you filed for approval after you had built something basically is telling this board that we don't have a function, if you will. You sidestep the procedure.
I'm not telling the board that. I'm here to work with you.
You presented us with a fait accompli. You did not work with us. You presented us with something that was already done, that was not approved.
I was going through the process. I'm sorry for what occurred, but I'm here to work with you. That's why I submitted that. If you want me to move something or do something, I'm willing to work with you. It's not a fait accompli when I come here. I'm not saying, I never made a statement that this is it. I'm not going to change anything. I won't change something. I won't move anything.
The only reason you came back was because you got a stop work order. Otherwise, you would not have. Is that correct?
No, I came back. The building inspector, the stop work order only happened quite a ways down the line. I mean, I came because I was told that what I was building, and this was August or September, what I was building wasn't going to be, wasn't right, and that I should try to, I had needed to come in front of the board and discuss it. I filed for that. I came in front of the board. A few months later, I was given a stop work order. If somebody had told me when I went in for an inspection on my basement, and I'm told that I never had approval for a basement, but I went before I started. I asked that question because it was on a set of plans that I had submitted to the board. I tried to do the right thing, and I'm sorry it perceived I went so astray, but say that I wouldn't work with the board, to say that there was no options. I mean, to say that I built a lot more decks, I mean, it's just not true. It's not true. I didn't build a lot more decks. I built less. There's less square footage of decks than there was in the original plan. There's less light emissions. I tried to keep an old house, and I'm not one of these people that the new Sagaponic people that come in. I'm not living in a big glass box. Size of my house on the property is small. Everybody's thinking, push me to sell my property because I can't afford to do things. That's
at this point, as far as the actions that this committee can make, we can't discuss alterations unless you want to go back and, I believe, resubmit something. Is that correct, John?
New application with a new design.
Okay. That's the process by which we function. We can't sit down and negotiate as you're asking us to after you've built the house. That's not the procedure or the process that we're enabled to give you a decision, nor is it the process by which the decisions are
Is that fair to
enacted.
tell me that after 5 months? After 6 months? After 6 months, you're telling me, Danny, 6 months have gone by, we can't even hear you.
Dan, we had given you an approval for a particular design to the house, and then you went ahead and built something totally different.
It's not totally different.
It's
That's
very
unfair
different
to
from the
say.
exterior. It's very different from what was approved for the exterior, and we are charged with working in the public's good.
I would argue it's not that much different, but it's fine. I understand that. I submitted an application to be reviewed. And you're telling me that application cannot be reviewed. I wasn't asking to say that this is it, I'm done, I'm finished. Approve it or not.
That's
I wasn't asking that.
that's the way our function is. People bring in a plan and we have to discuss it, see the particulars to it, and then render a decision whether it's yes or no. But that's not the process that you've followed when you've built something and then you come in and ask us to approve what you built.
I wasn't asking to approve that. I was asking to work with you, and I was just saying, this is what is there.
When I met you on the property, you said, my wife didn't like the plans that we approved, that were approved. That was your statement to me.
I mentioned the staircase.
Yes.
Going in front of a walkway, a deck going in front of a master bedroom that was open to the public. That's what I said.
Right.
That's all I said. I never had a chance to discuss this. You want me to you want me to take the stair down? You know, you tell me, you tell me. I didn't come here to say there was no options. And that was never presented to me, that Danny, you're wasting your time just standing in front. I spent thousands of dollars already just making drawings and stuff, making copies to submit something. And to tell me that I shouldn't have submitted anything because I was going to be rendered a decision that you couldn't hear me anyway. I feel like it just doesn't feel fair. It really doesn't feel fair to shut me out like this.
It's not a shutout. There's a process, but what you have to do is file it in a different way than what you filed it. I think is the best explanation that I can give you right now. But I do need to finish up this particular meeting. We aren't going to discuss modifications with you at this point in time. I think the best idea is to come in and find out what other potential ways to reconcile the thing is if you don't feel that you want to go before the ZBA and ask for their judgment on our decision. That's the next procedure in village law that you would go through. If you wanted to.
Who would I come and talk to? With you? Would you meet with me?
I'm not smart enough to give you that information. But I think if you want to come back in and talk to John, I think he can steer you in the right direction. He's not going to redesign the house for you to comply with the concerns that the board had. But the basis of the decision is that the process that you followed or the process that you took eliminates the work of this board because you built something that would have never ever gotten approved. You went ahead and changed
I
the
don't
design.
understand why you asked me to come in front of the board. The building inspector said that the board wanted me to come in front of them. You should. Well, why'd you do that?
Because that's the corrective procedure at that stage. that you were already doing stuff that wasn't permitted in the original application.
I think that the decision's clear too, that even assuming that it had been a new application, it was not something that the board could approve using their standard review. So I think there's a process in the code. You can either appeal this decision or just start anew essentially. And I think that's something you have to decide. There's not much else. The board can't say anything. This back and forth is not even something the board can be doing because the decision's been rendered. That's it. The record's closed, the decision's rendered.
Can I bring forward the same application as a new application and then talk to the board about that?
No, I don't think so. I think
The denial is clear. Denial is not just about the procedural aspects. The denial is also on the merits, meaning the design itself. The decision.
I never had the opportunity to present that design. How can it be
The
about
design is built
either
into
it's,
the
is it procedure or the design?
But the design was presented with its actual reality on Town Line Road.
It's there. The decision is clear on both counts, saying that even assuming the procedure, let's say you'd come anew and you'd done it procedurally proper, even on the merits, the design was.
But then if I brought something in on the merits that
The board can't
didn't
speak
look
to.
good, then the board would sit and talk to me about those issues that they didn't like, and I would try to work with them to rectify
The
those.
process, the board already did its part to do that, going all the way to the beginning, because obviously there was a history where you'd worked with the board and had an approved plan. So they obviously already done their part to do that. So you can't say that that there wasn't that back and forth. There obviously was. So at this point, like I said, I think we have to close it now. I think the board's can't really say anything on the application. It's a closed application, the decision's rendered, and that's it. It's final. So you have your options now that you can either appeal that decision or start anew.
You close the application without even asking. I mean,
That's your characterization of it. I don't think that's not the case at all. I think there was opportunity given to you. Especially if you're looking at this from the start, I don't think you could argue that somehow that the board never gave you opportunity or somehow shut you out. I don't think that's a fair characterization at all. But look, if you feel that's the case, then you have options to follow. You can either appeal the decision or start.
Robert, you wanted to say something to the board?
This is something very disparate from this. One of the comments dealing with the fenestration and that percentage of glass, they refer to the fact there were a lot of mullions or muttons, depending upon which way they go. I don't know that any other architect has said that a 5x4 window, which happens to have mullions of muttons, isn't 20 feet of glass. And I am concerned that we are told that on one building, it went from 22 to 34%, which by the way is a 50% increase. Okay, so it's not a small one. But the way they got to that is by eliminating all of the muttons and mullions in the windows. Somebody took a lot of time to reduce that percentage. And I don't think that was our intent. When we look at a window on the side of a building, we're not talking about the glass, we're talking about the window. And it's very concerning to me. And I think without Nick here, we don't have the ability to really talk about it. But I don't think that any other percent or analysis has ever removed the mullions and muttons. It's very concerning.
I think that might fall in line with there not being a hard precedent or a hard line of glass percentages. So it leads people to believe that different percentages could be allowable in different scenarios and different usages. And they think there's a special place in heaven for more traditional windows, I think is what it comes down to.
You know, I understand what you're saying, and it's lovely, but you know, it's like the reason we can't hear something on Town Line is he never made an application. this was not an application to this board. What I said the first day was before us, because an application is before the construction is done. So there's never been an application, a new application. And in
Right.
terms of windows, I don't know how you can, if you believe that someone can make that argument, we have to clarify it. Because if you look at that side and don't take out the mullions and muntins, it's not going to be 32% or 34%.
Right.
I don't think you better cover it. It's really.
Council? Yeah, I guess we have to ask, let's take a look at the language on the fenestration on the percentages. If we have to clarify, let's clarify. Because I don't want to confuse people, but I don't want someone making an argument that I believe is creatively made, but not terribly.
And it's something to explore. I think it's hard to, like you said, make a hard line percentage in the code and then get locked into that, because like you said, in different situations, it's not just a question of percentage. It's about all kinds of issues and factors that come into play.
In actual fact, I'm not asking for the hard line. I'm just asking for, how do we define a window? In other words, is a piece of a pane of glass the only thing that counts? Or is a window, I forgot what the word is when you get the window itself. In other words, you don't count the frame on the outside, but you certainly count.
Oh, just the glazing versus?
Yeah, it's glazing. Robert,
It's just something we have to clarify, because that 34% number, I'm sorry, is bull. It's just downright bull.
Is that from?
Well, from, I don't know if we should be discussing this with the audience here, so.
Yeah, Robert, I'm gonna, do I have somebody to do committee of two next month? And then I'm gonna close the meeting and then we can continue with this if need be. Any volunteers for committee of two?
I'll be here.
All right. The brave one steps up. Okay, very good. Emily will be committee of two with me, and is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a move.
Very good. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Megan? Adjourn?
Megan, aye.
Thank you. So recording off, please.